Patrick had everything a man could ask for: wealth, influence, and charm. Yet, in the quiet of his mansion, surrounded by glass and gold, he often felt something missing. Every morning he'd wake up to the sound of his girlfriend Vanessa humming as she scrolled through her phone, talking about fashion trips, jewelry, and vacations she wanted him to fund. He once thought her laughter was the sound of love, but lately it echoed like an empty shell in his heart. One rainy morning, as Patrick stood by the window sipping coffee, his best friend Jonah called. "Bro," Jonah said, his voice teasing, "you're still with that woman?" Patrick sighed. "She's not that bad." "Not that bad? She asked you for a new car last week because her old one didn't match her outfit." Patrick chuckled dryly. "You exaggerate." "No, I don't. Listen, you've built your company from scratch. You need someone real, not someone who sees your wallet before your eyes." Patrick smiled faintly, his gaze distant. He didn't admit it, but Jonah was right. He knew it the night he caught Vanessa secretly checking his bank statements, thinking he was asleep. That same day, fate began to turn. As he drove downtown to inspect a new auto garage investment, Patrick's car broke down near a small workshop. It was a humble place, oil-stained and alive with noise. Inside, a woman in a blue jumpsuit worked beneath a truck, her legs sticking out. "Excuse me," Patrick said, approaching. Without glancing at him, she replied, "If you're selling perfume, I don't need any." Patrick laughed, amused. "Actually, I need help. My car just died outside." She slid out from under the truck, wiping her hands. She was striking, not in the polished way Vanessa was, but raw, real, confident. Her hair was tied in a messy bun, her face streaked with grease, but her eyes were sharp and fearless. "I'm Casey," she said, standing. "Pop the hood." Within minutes, she diagnosed the problem. Her hands moved with certainty, her voice calm. Patrick found himself watching her, not the car. "You're good at this," he said. She shrugged. "Someone has to be. Men around here only know how to talk." Patrick smiled, the first genuine smile he'd had in weeks. She charged him less than half what any other mechanic would, refusing his offer to pay more. "I fix cars, not egos," she said, walking away. That line stayed with him all night. The next week, Vanessa demanded they attend a luxury gala. She spent hours preparing, arguing about outfits and camera angles. During dinner, she whispered, "Patrick, you know the media will be there. Let's make them see us, power couple goals." He nodded politely, his thoughts far away, with the grease-stained mechanic who never smiled for the cameras. A few days later, a wild idea struck him. He called Jonah. "Jonah, I have a plan," Patrick said. "I'm tired of Vanessa's gold-digging ways. I want to end this without drama. But I need help." "What's the plan?" Patrick smiled. "I'll make her jealous. I'll hire someone to pretend to be my new lover. Someone she'd never expect me to be with." Jonah laughed. "Oh, this will be good. And who's the lucky actress?" Patrick hesitated, then said softly, "Casey." Jonah nearly choked. "The mechanic." "Patrick, you've lost it." "Maybe," Patrick said, "but she's real. That's exactly what Vanessa can't stand." Patrick returned to Casey's workshop 2 days later. She was under another car, music playing faintly from a small radio. "Need another repair?" she asked, without looking up. "I need a favor," he said. She rolled out and squinted at him. "A favor?" "Yes, a job, actually. It pays well. You'd have to act as my girlfriend for a short while." Casey stared, then burst out laughing. "You're joking." "I'm serious," Patrick said. It's to make my current girlfriend jealous, so she'll leave me. You'll be paid generously." She crossed her arms. "You rich people are strange." "Maybe," he admitted, "but I'm honest about it." Casey studied him. There was something in his tone, sincerity mixed with quiet loneliness. Against her better judgment, she said, "Fine, but I don't do fake kisses or drama." Patrick grinned. Deal. The plan began that weekend. Patrick took Casey to one of the city's most elite restaurants, where Vanessa happened to be dining. Casey wore a simple black dress he'd sent, and even without jewelry or makeup, she turned heads. Vanessa's eyes widened when she saw them. "Patrick?" she said, approaching their table. "Who's this?" Patrick smiled calmly. "Vanessa. Meet Casey, my partner." Casey extended her hand, smiling politely. "Nice to meet you." Vanessa looked her up and down with disbelief. "Partner? You mean your mechanic?" "Yes," Patrick said firmly. "And she's brilliant." The entire restaurant seemed to freeze. Vanessa's friends whispered behind manicured hands. Humiliated, Vanessa stormed out. Patrick and Casey exchanged glances. Casey whispered, "Was that supposed to happen?" Patrick chuckled. "Better than I imagined." That night, they couldn't stop laughing. What started as a game became a strange friendship. Casey teased him endlessly about his soft hands and spoiled habits, while he admired her independence and blunt honesty. One night, Patrick drove her home after a long day. As they sat in the car, silence filled the air. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" "For reminding me that not all women see money first." Casey smiled faintly. "And not all men respect women who fix cars. But you did." Their eyes met. Something unspoken sparked. Weeks passed. The plan worked. Vanessa broke up with him publicly, furious and embarrassed. But what neither Patrick nor Casey expected was how real their connection had become. They began seeing each other even after the act was over. Dinner turned into long talks into laughter, and laughter into something deeper. One evening, during a thunderstorm, Casey came to his house soaked and shivering. "I was in the neighborhood," she said awkwardly, "and my bike broke down." Patrick gave her a towel. "You could have called." "I didn't want to bother you. You could never bother me." Silence hung between them, heavy, electric. Then, without words, he reached for her. She didn't pull away. What began as a spark turned into a night neither of them would forget. When Casey woke the next morning, Patrick was still asleep, his arm around her. She smiled sadly, slipped out of bed, and dressed quietly. By the time he woke up, she was gone. Days passed. She didn't answer his calls. Jonah told him, "Bro, maybe she got scared. You're rich, she's not." Patrick didn't care. He searched everywhere, but she'd vanished. What he didn't know was that Casey had discovered she was pregnant, with twins. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below. Things are about to get even more emotional. Casey sat alone in a tiny rented room behind an old woman's house, staring at the pregnancy test. 2 lines. Her heart pounded. She whispered, "No, no, this can't be happening." Her hands trembled as she pressed the test to her chest, tears filling her eyes. She had always been strong, fixing engines, surviving alone since her parents died. But this? This was something she couldn't fix. "He's rich," she murmured. "His world isn't mine. He'd never want this." The next day, she packed her few belongings and moved to another town. She took odd jobs, trying to save for an abortion. But something deep inside her hesitated every time she tried to go through with it. Meanwhile, Patrick was breaking apart. He couldn't focus at work, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Jonah tried to cheer him up. You can't love someone who doesn't want to be found. But Patrick knew she didn't leave because she didn't care. She left because she cared too much. Months passed. One afternoon, Casey fainted while working at a repair shop. When she woke up, she found herself in a cozy bedroom with floral curtains. An older woman sat beside her, holding a bowl of soup. "You're safe now," the woman said gently. "I'm Margaret. You collapsed outside my gate." Casey blinked weakly. "Thank you, ma'am." Margaret smiled warmly. "Eat. You're carrying 2 little ones, aren't you?" Casey froze. "How did you?" "I've been a mother," Margaret said softly. "I know the signs." Casey broke down. "I can't do this. I don't even know where to start." Margaret placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then start here. You'll stay with me until you're strong again." Casey nodded through tears. She had no idea the kind woman who took her in was Patrick's mother. Margaret's home was warm, the kind of place that smelled like baked bread and safety. For the first time in months, Casey felt her heart beat slow to something close to peace. Every morning, Margaret would hum as she cooked breakfast. She never asked about Casey's past, only made sure she ate well and rested. But late at night, Casey would sit by the window, her hand resting on her belly, whispering to the life inside her. "I'm scared," she said one night, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to be a mother. I don't even know if he'll want you." Margaret overheard her one evening. The next morning, she served her porridge and said gently, "Child, no one is ever fully ready for love or motherhood. You just learn as you go. The heart stretches in ways the mind can't imagine." Her words settled deep in Casey's heart. Meanwhile, in the city, Patrick's world felt emptier than ever. Vanessa had moved on, or so it seemed, flaunting pictures online with another wealthy man. But one night, she returned, uninvited. She showed up at Patrick's mansion in a red dress, drenched from the rain. "Patrick," she said, forcing a smile, "I made a mistake. We belong together." Patrick looked at her with exhaustion. "Vanessa, it's over. I don't love you." Her eyes hardened. "Is it because of her? That mechanic girl? You think she's better than me?" "I don't think," Patrick said quietly. "I know." Vanessa's face twisted. "You'll regret this." She left, but her eyes carried something dangerous. Months rolled by. Casey's belly grew, and with it, her fear. She knew she couldn't hide forever. She planned to leave after giving birth, to disappear again so Patrick would never know. One sunny afternoon, Margaret was sorting old photo albums. A picture slipped from her hand, a young Patrick smiling beside his car. Casey froze, her heart pounded. "That's your son?" "Yes," Margaret said proudly. "Patrick. He owns a company in the city. Always busy, but he calls me every week." Casey felt dizzy. Her hand shook as she picked up the photo. "He's your son?" "Yes. Why? Do you know him?" Casey's eyes welled with tears. "I do." "Too well." Margaret frowned slightly, watching the younger woman tremble. Then it hit her. The fear in Casey's eyes, the pregnancy, the silence about the father. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Patrick, is the father?" Casey covered her face. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was going to tell him, but I ran." Margaret sat down slowly. She should have been angry, shocked, but instead, she took Casey's hand. "Listen to me," she said softly. "You don't need to run anymore." That same week, Patrick finally decided to visit his mother. He needed her comfort, the kind that no business meeting or luxury trip could replace. He arrived without warning. Margaret was in the kitchen. Casey was folding baby clothes in the living room when she heard the familiar sound of his voice. "Mom? Are you home?" Casey froze. Her breath caught. Margaret came out, her eyes wide but calm. "Patrick, you're here early." "Yeah," he said, smiling faintly. "I missed you." Then his gaze fell on the living room, and the woman standing there with a round belly and eyes full of tears. "Casey?" he whispered. Her lips trembled. "Patrick!" For a moment, silence filled the air. Heavy, painful, yet strangely peaceful. Margaret excused herself quietly, leaving them alone. Patrick stepped closer, disbelief and emotion flooding his face. "Why didn't you tell me?" Tears streamed down Casey's cheeks. "Because I didn't want to trap you. You deserve someone who fits your world." "My world means nothing without you," he said, his voice cracking. "You think I care about wealth?" "Casey, I've been lost without you. I've searched everywhere," she sobbed softly. "I didn't want you to feel burdened." He knelt before her, placing a hand gently on her stomach. "That's not a burden. That's my family." For the first time in months, Casey let herself cry freely, not from fear, but relief. Margaret watched from the doorway, smiling faintly. She whispered to herself, "Finally, God, you've brought them home." But love stories rarely flow without storms. Vanessa found out about Casey's pregnancy through a mutual friend. Rage filled her heart. She couldn't accept that Patrick had chosen a grease-stained nobody over her. One night, she followed Casey from the market, her car speeding behind her. Casey noticed the headlights in her mirror and tried to turn quickly onto a side road. But the rain poured hard, blurring her vision. Vanessa's car skidded, losing control. Everything happened in seconds. A scream, a crash, and then silence. When Casey woke up in the hospital, Patrick was at her side. His eyes were red from crying, his hand clutching hers. "You're safe," he said, voice trembling. "The babies are fine," Casey whispered weakly. "Vanessa?" Patrick looked down. She didn't make it. She's alive, but she'll never walk again." Casey closed her eyes. "I never wanted her hurt." "I know," he said gently. "Neither did I. But sometimes fate teaches through pain." 2 months later, Casey gave birth to beautiful twins, a boy and a girl. Patrick named them Hope and Nathan, saying, "Because that's what you gave me, hope and a reason to live again." Margaret was overjoyed, cradling her grandchildren like rare jewels. Life began anew. The once lonely mansion became a home filled with laughter, tiny footsteps, and the smell of Casey's cooking. Sometimes Patrick would watch her play with the twins, and his heart would ache, not from sadness, but from gratitude. He often thought back to that first day in the workshop, the smell of oil and the sound of her voice saying, "I fix cars, not egos." He would smile and whisper, "You fixed my heart too." Years passed. Casey and Patrick built a life grounded in love, not luxury. She opened her own auto school for women, teaching young girls to become mechanics, strong, independent, and fearless. Patrick supported her fully, often joking, "I lost a girlfriend and gained a business partner." Every Sunday, the family gathered at Margaret's house, where laughter echoed through the air. One afternoon, while the twins napped, Patrick and Margaret sat outside under the mango tree. "I'm proud of you, son," she said softly. "You finally found real love." Patrick smiled. "I found it where I least expected." Margaret chuckled. "Life has a funny way of humbling us. Sometimes the ones covered in grease are the ones shining with gold." Meanwhile, Vanessa, now in a wheelchair, lived quietly in a rehabilitation home. One day, she wrote a letter addressed to Patrick and Casey. It read, "I don't expect forgiveness. I lost everything because I couldn't see beyond money and pride. But seeing how you two love, I finally understand what I never had. Please raise your children to love, not to judge. That will be enough redemption for me," Casey cried when she read it. "Maybe we all learn too late," she whispered. Patrick took her hand. "No, we just learn when the time is right." They decided to visit Vanessa one afternoon. She was surprised but grateful. "You came?" she said, her voice frail. Patrick nodded. "We wanted to thank you for teaching us what love shouldn't be." Vanessa smiled faintly through tears. "Take care of each other. Don't waste time like I did." As they left, Casey looked back one last time, whispering a silent prayer for her. That night, Patrick tucked the twins into bed. Casey stood by the door, watching. "They have your smile," she said softly. "And your stubbornness," he teased. She laughed, walking into his arms. "Do you ever regret how it all began? The fake relationship, the lies?" Patrick looked into her eyes. "If every lie led me to this truth, then no, not a single regret." They stood there, holding each other as the children slept, the night wrapping them in warmth and quiet peace. Outside, the rain began to fall, soft, gentle, and cleansing. If you've watched this far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below. What lesson did you learn from Patrick and Casey's journey? Sometimes love hides in the places we least expect, in the oil-stained hands of a stranger, in the tears of a mistake, in the courage to forgive. Patrick and Casey's story reminds us that the richest hearts are those that give, not those that take, and that even broken roads can lead us home.